Hello and welcome to Views on News. I'm your host Rafae, and in today's show we'll be deliberating on the most important topic, that is the flag point, and that is the most biggest highlight in the country and across the world. That is the Kashmir Solidarity Day, as it is being observed across Pakistan, Azad Jammu and Kashmir, and all over the world. We've seen rallies being held in solidarity with the Kashmiri people, expressing the resolve and solidarity with them in their just struggle for their right to self-determination, as enshrined in the United Nations Security Council resolutions as well. This day serves as a reminder of how the international community needs to be reminded of the promises, the commitments that they had made to the Kashmiri community in light of the UNSC resolutions. We also know that in light of the Indian oppression and repression and how the Indian atrocities had been taking place in the occupied valley, and how the Indian state machinery had been brutalizing the Kashmiri people in a bid to further increase that brutality. The Indian government unilaterally abrogated Article 370 and 35A, which revoked the special status given to occupied Jammu and Kashmir in the Indian constitution, which has created a further chaos for the Kashmiri people, and the policies of the BJP, the extremist Hindutva BJP regime, which have led to further victimization of the Kashmiri populace with regards to domicile being granted to those who are non-Kashmiris, businesses being settled in the occupied valley, and the state brutalities and the atrocities they continue, such as the cordon and search operations, such as the extrajudicial killings and the house raids and arrests, the unlawful arrests that take place there. Of course, with regards to Pakistan, Kashmir Solidarity Day was expressed with national zeal and fervour in a resolve to express solidarity with our Kashmiri brethren. Rallies were held throughout the country. We also saw that the Kashmir Council, various chapters, the EU chapter, the American chapter, the UK chapter, they all held rallies in their respective countries as well. And it was reiterated that the Kashmiri people will not be left alone, as Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and President Asif Ali Zardari, they also in their messages said that the international community must take cognizance of the atrocities that India is committing and the violations of international law that has been going out by the Indian side, and the international community needs to uphold the promise made to the Kashmiri people with regards to their right to self-determination. A torch rally and candlelight vigil was also held in Azad Jammu and Kashmir and Muzaffarabad, as Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and the Chief of Army Staff General Saeed Munir also visited Muzaffarabad today. The Army Chief, he laid a floral wreath at the Yadgar Ashoda as well. The Prime Minister also did, and the Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, he also held interactions with the leadership of Azad Jammu and Kashmir, where the leadership of AJK also expressed their thanks to the Pakistani side for always expressing and standing by the Kashmiri brethren. We'll be deliberating on the Kashmir Solidarity Day in detail with regards to that. In the studios, we've been joined by Waleed Inkalabi, who is the Joint Secretary of Pakistan People's Party AJK chapter. On Skype, we have been joined by Brigadier Retired Rashid WaliJanjua, who is a senior analyst. Along with that, we have been joined by Raza Syed, who is a chairman of the Kashmir Council, European Union, on Skype. Thank you all for your time and being part of the conversation. I'll start off from Brigadier Rashid. So, Kashmir Solidarity Day, a reminder for the international community, the promises they have made, to the commitments they have made to the Kashmiri people. Many years have passed, many decades have passed, but the resolve of the Kashmiri people remains steadfast as it was when this movement started. What would you comment on the progress of the Kashmir Freedom Movement and the commitments made by the international community, and how Kashmir Solidarity Day is very crucial to remind the international community of the promises that they've made?
Thank you very much. I would like to say that Kashmiris have displayed a remarkable resilience in the face of continual stonewalling of all attempts at resolution of Kashmir conflict by the government of India. And unfortunately, the machine guns might have been silenced. And as one of the writers said, that the staccato sound of machine guns would intone the funeral dirge of the martyrs. Those staccato sounds are still visible in the shape of 0.9 million Indian army and paramilitary plus police apparatus which is there primarily to keep the Kashmiris under bondage. Their water sources are being poisoned. You must have heard that information about wells being poisoned by Indian Army in Poonch area, and there are news of toxins being spread to spread uh, a climate of fear, so that the Kashmiris, they do not agitate for their rights. A government which has been brought as a part of an electoral process, which was also boycotted by most of the uh, indigenous and original Kashmiri political forces, uh, is also unable to get the right concession from a government which is bent upon erasing all vestiges of a Kashmiri identity. You see, the biggest crime against Kashmiris by Indians is the deprivation of their identity. And this is a bigger crime than international law violations. International law violation is the second egregious sin of the Indian government in the shape of continual negation of United Nations Security Council resolutions asking for a plebiscite to give the right of self-determination to Kashmiris. What have Indians done? They have done exactly the opposite. They have erased the status. They have even revoked Article 370, which gave a kind of a independence pending the final settlement of the Kashmir question. They very cleverly inserted Article 367D, which changed the proviso of consulting the Constituent Assembly with consulting the Legislative Assembly, so that they could rubber stamp every kind of legislation with the help of some pliant politicians, which they always find as collaborators from inside Kashmir. That is the unfortunate fact. And the only reason why international community is not standing up and taking notice is because of the expedient geopolitics and the Indian relevance in the big game of global power competition. All said and done, the Kashmiris have not accepted this blatant injustice. Their struggle is on, and despite 213 days of internet apartheid, 15,000 incarcerations, and over 6,000 killings since 2020. I think this is a testament to the grit, resolve, and self-immolating spirit of Kashmiris, which could not be extinguished by heavy-handed tactics. But now the demographic changes through legislation are being effected. Gerrymandering of constituencies is leading to changing of the electoral constituencies. 6 constituencies have been added in Jammu, and only 1 has been added in Kashmir, which shows that they wish to perhaps alter the whole dynamics and to ensure that in future their dream of bringing a BJP government to power is realized. They tried their best this year, but they could not succeed in their attempts. Though it's another matter that the current government in Kashmir, which is led by Umar Abdullah, is also treated as a government of the quislings by the genuine Kashmiri leadership, whose hearts beat with Pakistan and who desire the right of self-determination. And the property law, which has been changed, gives Indian Army the permission to appropriate any land for a military use. So prior to that, they had to get concurrence from the central government. Now that concurrence is can be accorded by the Kashmiri leadership, and which always concurs with the version of the center. The Article 370's revocation, which was challenged in the Indian courts, and those courts are also so ineffective that they also sang to the tune of BJP, and they validated this illegal revocation of Article 370. So the portents are not good. according to Gregory Stanton, there is a demographic change being affected through a genocide. And Genocide Watch is an organization which is very credible internationally. Once it says that Kashmir is in the 8th stage of genocide, only 2 stages are beyond that. One is extermination and then is the denial. So what is the international community
You've raised,
waiting?
Brigadier Rashid, I'd like to include comments from Mr. Ali Raza Syed as well with regards to these demographic changes. Mr. Ali, well, we'll try reconnecting with Mr. Ali Raza Syed. I'd like comments from Mr. Muhammad Waleed Inkalabi. Sir, as Brigadier Rashid pointed out, the demographic changes, you are being and representing a political party from Azad Jammu and Kashmir, how what impacts do you think it have had on the Kashmiri people living in occupied Jammu and Kashmir with regards to the demographic changes, the domiciles being granted from people from outside the valley, and how they're being allowed to do businesses now in occupied Kashmir?
First of all, thank you very much for inviting me. Basically, by issuing a non-state people the domiciles of the Kashmiri, the thing is that it basically it shows the mindset of India and in how they're trying to bring about the state, the cultural changes and the demographic changes which they're trying to bring in the state. And I believe that in reality, it's not just about it's not just about issuing the domicile. It's about bringing about executing a settler colonial agenda. It's a bigger picture, and the picture represents me representing a political party. The Pakistan People's Party has always championed the Kashmir agenda. It always has been a blunt and a bold voice in the Kashmir issue. Zulfikar Ali Bhutto being the foreign minister during Ayub Khan's tenure, I believe that how he himself in the UN Council he represented Kashmir, and the way in which he represented Kashmir and how he responded to the. I believe that the way in which he responded to the way in which they were trying to bring about the thing. So basically, the state of India wants to bring about. They want to bring in their people. They want to delete the cultural and historical identity of Kashmir. Kashmir has been there since a long time, and when India bringing about these demographical changes, it has tried to dissolve and really affect the Kashmiri cause.
Definitely. With that, Brigadier Rashid, how do you think the international media can play a role with regards to preserving the Kashmiri identity, and a role that Pakistan could play in preserving the Kashmiri element? Because as you and the other analysts that we have with us, they've both mentioned how India is hell-bent on removing and destroying this Kashmiri identity with bringing in people from outside the occupied valley and settling them there.
You asked about media. I think the first thing that needs to be done is that access needs to be granted to international media to come and see for themselves what is happening in occupied Kashmir. Unless independent voices come and they assess the situation on ground, rest all would be just echoing of secondary sources. And India has been very successful in ensuring a complete ban on movement of journalists in and out of Kashmir.
But Brigadier Rashid, at the same time, there's been voices from organizations such as Amnesty International and others who have called upon the Indian atrocities, how there's journalists not being allowed there. Even in the Jammu and Kashmir elections that were held, there was there were not any observers that were allowed as of such. With these kind of policies that India has put in place, how could the international community or the international media even think about going into the valley and having those real on-ground facts being reported to the world? Because what we're seeing at the moment, it's all what we're getting from Kashmir or from occupied Kashmir is the information that India is letting out, because the internet shutdown has also been placed there.
Yeah, it's a continual struggle. There are voices inside Kashmir that need to take their voice out, and we have to play our part. Pakistan and its media should enable Kashmiri indigenous media inside, which is resisting the Indian occupation, to send their voices out. And we need to amplify those voices with the help of the Kashmiri diaspora. There's a very effective diaspora voice in European capitals, in UK and USA, which needs to be capitalized upon. And you know how Palestinian voices are heard. There is a very large Palestinian diaspora, and their journalists are doing a good job in the shape of sending their narrative out, letting the world know what's happening there. And even there are campaigns like BDS, boycott, divest services of and the goods from Israel. So similarly, I think there is a scope. Pakistani media can play a part, and the international media, which is wedded to the truth. And there are journalists both in America, in UK and European continents who are looking for such violations of human rights. And I think our diaspora needs to be supported to connect with them and enable them to get the real truth from channels. It is the age of technology nowadays. Despite their very best efforts, there are channels through which the actual truth leaks out, and that truth needs to be properly packaged and amplified and repeated, because Indian media and its outreach is so effective that the voices of poor Kashmiris, those are muzzled. So we have to ensure that those voices are not muzzled, and that truth which is there in occupied Kashmir is first that it is taken out, then it should be packaged and it should be amplified in the shape of important newspapers should carry the articles, and then there should be people coming on and discussing this thing on important electronic media channels internationally. The credible channels like BBC and others should be tapped so as to present a fact-based, well-packaged and evidence-laced narrative of Indian atrocities and violation of international law. I think this is the way to go, and in that Pakistani media, the Kashmiri resistance media inside occupied Kashmir, and the diaspora needs to play a part.
Definitely, that's some very important points that you raised in regards to that. PTV World has always been supporting the Kashmiri people, raising voice on this issue, this very important issue, and of course highlighting this issue on an international stage. We hope the private media, they also follow suit and raise this issue more often, as we do at PTV World with regards to that. Mohammed Waleed Inkalabi, with regards to the digital era and with regards to how there's demographic changes being done. At the same time, there's a shutdown on media being allowed inside the occupied valley. We see no internet updates from there. And when we talk about the situation on ground, it's very dire, considering the increased cordon search operations, the increased Indian atrocities that we're seeing, and from what the reports that we see, they've further increased those crackdowns and those atrocities. At this time, when there's a hold by the central government, India's in place in occupied Jammu and Kashmir with regards to abrogation of Article 370 and 35A, how do you think the Pakistani community and the Kashmiri diaspora that is spread all over the world, they can channelize their energies and have a united approach towards raising this voice, as Brigadier Rashid mentioned, the Palestinian diaspora that has been doing so?
I think that actually in order to attain peace in South Asia, we need to have peace in Kashmir. And if we don't have peace in Kashmir, then we can't have peace in South Asia. So in order to have that peace, we need to have a united approach for the atrocities and the total media shutdown and all the rights which they have been neglected by the Indian government in the Indian occupied Kashmir. So I believe that in regards to not providing the Kashmiri people with their basic rights, and as Brigadier Saab has already mentioned, the right of self-determination, and as already mentioned by the leading parties of Pakistan, my party, Pakistan People's Party, how they have always have a sound word in order to the right for the Kashmiri people to have the right of self-determination. So we believe that the international community, along with all the communities in the world, the international community and the UN, which has allowed the Kashmiri people to actually have the right of self-determination. They can't move forward. It's nowhere to be closed if they can't they can't have peace without having the right of self-determination.
Very true and very right indeed. Of course, when we talk about the digital era and how there's mention of the Palestinian issue, in fact, when we talk about the Kashmir issue, there's a nexus. Of course, Israel and India, they have been linked as holding two open-air prisons in the world. The one India is holding in occupied Jammu and Kashmir, the other Israel is holding in the war-torn Gaza Strip. Of course, this nexus has been highly talked about by analysts over the previous few months. Brigadier Rashid, and as we see, the ideologies that both the countries are pursuing with regards to these occupied territories, they are quite similar in nature. Cordon and search operations, the atrocities, the state brutality that is being conducted. Of course, what do you say about that with regards to this nexus that is being exposed now and it is coming forth towards the international community and the world at large?
Yes, there is a nexus, which is an old nexus. And Indians always take inspiration from Israeli example of their brutalities vis-a-vis Palestinians. And I think they must be inspired by the draconian ethnic cleansing and the genocide perpetrated against the Gaza population by Israeli forces. And whenever such things happen against the Palestinians, the resolve of Indians, I think, gets further steeled. So there is a nexus, there is an inspiration. But it is up to us to show to the world that Kashmir is a issue which is rooted in unfinished agenda of partition. It has an international law sanction rooted in UN Security Council resolutions which are still alive on the statute books and agenda of United Nations Security Council, despite best Indian efforts to remove those resolutions from that agenda. And Indian attempts to woo Arab countries like GCC countries to come and invest in Kashmir and promote tourism and other initiatives, that should be called out. Pakistan played its part last year once Indians attempted to hold a conference there, and very effective advocacy by Pakistan. It led to Saudi Arabia and UAE's reluctance to come and hold those events and invest in territory which is still disputed. And these things and these contradictions and incongruities of Indian policy need to be continually highlighted by Pakistan at all fora, in OIC, in Security Council, in General Assembly, because we should not let the fatigue set in. Neither amongst, I'm sure it's not amongst the Kashmiris. There is always still very strong, but the world, it gets caught up into so many other things that it loses sight of a dispute and a tragedy that is unfolding, which is of no consequence to the rest of the world. It needs to be kept alive by our continual diplomatic efforts and our continual raising of these voices in front of the world, and to ensure that the Kashmiris also, they get continually inspired and do not get discouraged that nobody in the world is paying heed to their plight.
Rashid, of course, Pakistan has always stood by our Kashmiri brethren, stood by the Kashmir cause, and Pakistan will continue to do so. But when we talk about the United Nations, when we talk about the pledges that were made to the Kashmiri community, when we talk about the pledges, promises and commitments made to the Kashmiri people, don't you think there's a liability on all of the stakeholders of the United Nations, all the stakeholders of the global community who were a party to those promises and the commitments made, and now are liable to have cognizance of what India is doing there, irrespective of the voice Pakistan has been raising, because they being party to such an arrangement, giving the Kashmiris their right to self-determination, also hold liability, and of course, as in seen in the Palestinian cause, should play a more active role.
Yes, they should, because this is an international dispute, and which is to be resolved as per the UN Security Council resolutions in letter and spirit. And it has another dimension, that if it doesn't get resolved, the nuclear standoff between the two nuclear powers in subcontinent will keep the peace in ransom to this conflict. So this is also a consideration that international community must pay heed to, even if they have no qualms for the plight of the Kashmiris. They must, in the interest of the peace, treat this issue very seriously, because this is a very important, flashpoint, because anything can trigger a wider conflict, and a black swan event or any development which puts the peace of the region at stake, and the situations get escalated to a level where there is a nuclear standoff. So international community must be very chary and suspicious of Indian attempts to integrate an area which is non-integratable as per international law, and they must
That brings me into a very interesting another question, Brigadier Rashid. As when we talk about India, recently how we see India in the global stage, their own strategic allies have been suspicious of their activities, as India has been involved in a lot of extrajudicial, extraterritorial activities. Canada has called them out, America has called them out, the UK has called them out, and Pakistan has been continuing to do so. With regards to that, analysts have also been calling India's actions, as they've been doing so lately, and the activities that they've been conducting in the region, calling them more as a rogue state. With regards to that, do you think what India is doing in occupied Jammu and Kashmir, it is even more of a liability and responsibility on the international community and the regional stakeholders as well to keep India in check?
Yes, but unfortunately, the Indian hubris and Indian intransigence is a result of their big power pretensions. They think they are not too big to be bothered by such moral qualms or the conscience or morality, or in considerations like human rights. They are behaving like a bull in a china shop, and they probably want to emulate those global powers which trample the human rights under their feet and go for maximizing their power gains. That is the intent of the Indians, but that is a very myopic and short-sighted approach, because if they wish to be global South's leader, and if they have any pretensions of ever getting a chance to get into UN Security Council's permanent membership, all their such attempts would come a cropper because of this blatant injustice and a bad reputation they are earning by way of violating international law through assassinations on foreign soil, through denial of rights to a people whose rights have been enshrined in the UN Security Council resolutions. So all this does not redound well to the advantage of India in the long term, but that is for Indian leadership to take cognizance of that reality. Because if they don't change their policy and if they don't resolve these conflicts would ultimately catch up with them and may lead to their internal implosion.
Definitely, of course, as you've said, right, it's a cake in their own foot. With regards to that, Mohammed Waleed bin Inkalabi, when we talk about the Kashmir issue, of course, and India, what it's been doing there, how do you see this issue being promoted further as we talk about Kashmir Solidarity Day? Today is the day we give reminder to the international community towards their commitments and their promises. How do you think the issue of Kashmir, this internationally recognized dispute, can be further highlighted at the global level?
I believe that all the Pakistani community stands with the oppressed people of Kashmir, and how they have actually challenged and how they have stood against the oppressions which they have faced against themselves, their families, and how they have actually reacted upon them. We believe that we need to have a debate on a broader level, and the international community should recognize the issue of Kashmir, but just as it recognized the issue of Gaza and Palestine. The Kashmiri issue, I firmly believe that it's also but just as serious as the later issues as well. And I believe that the international community should move forward and put a voice, be it on the media, the print media, social media, or as they can. But as long as the international the community doesn't come forward, it's I don't see the people of Kashmir being released from the oppressions that they are being faced by the Indian government.
Definitely. With regards to that, Brigadier Rashid, how do you comment, of course, on when we talk about this Kashmir issue and the Kashmir dispute, the internationally recognized dispute, and how it needs to be promoted further in the world? Pakistan has been doing a lot. Social media, do you think it could add up to playing a very significant role with regards to propagating this issue and highlighting it on a global level? And secondly, as the conversation has shaped up, I'd like your concluding remarks. What more of a role could Pakistan or the Kashmiri diaspora that is spread all over the world play in getting this issue resolved? It's been 78 years. Pakistan has constantly highlighted how there needs to be importance given to the UNSC resolutions. But India, as we know, as always, remains adamant and rigid.
First, I think we have to give a message to the world that a problem does not disappear if you bury your head in the sand. If the Kashmiris are not being given the requisite attention by international community, that doesn't mean the problem isn't there. Now, how to do it? I think there are forums, and Pakistan, like always, has been doing its best, but more needs to be done, I guess, and we need to invest more in our leveraging of modern technology. Social media is part of that, artificial intelligence and new social media platforms and their reach and their persuasive capacity is giving a new opportunity nowadays to proliferate your narrative in a more effective manner. So that is on epistemic stage. And we also need to encourage more scholarly works also. Books need to be written about what has happened and what is happening, so that the world also takes notice of the tragedy that is unfolding there. Then we need to package these atrocities in the shape of some dossier of evidence. which can connect with the accused, and according to international law, maybe the perpetrators of those atrocities could be taken to international criminal court, like the Palestinians have taken their case, and even ICJ needs to be moved. So all those forums, including Human Rights Council, need to be agitated, and all these platforms of multilateral alliances like OIC also need to be tapped. And then most important thing is that we need to ensure that this voice and these realities are not drowned in the sea of lies being bruited about by Indian propaganda. This is something in which Pakistan needs to be.
Definitely. I think there's some trouble we're having listening to you, Brigadier Rashid. We'll try reconnecting with you, but before that, I'd like to include comments from Sheikh Mateen, who is leader of the All Parties Hurriyat Conference AJK chapter. Thank you for joining us and being part of the conversation as we were talking about Kashmir Solidarity Day, a day that serves as a reminder for the international community for the commitments, the promises that they made to the Kashmiri people with regards to the right to self-determination, which has been enshrined in the UNSC resolutions as well. Of course, we talked in length about how this international community needs to take cognizance of what India has been doing in the occupied valley since all those years. But there's a new element that I'd like your opinion on with regards to a lot of effort being done in the region for regional connectivity with the Central Asian states. Of course, the Kashmir issue, it is a long-standing dispute and a dispute that has been an issue for both India and Pakistan, and a hotly contested dispute as well. Do you think the regional stakeholders have a part to play in getting this issue resolved as well? Of course, the international community does, but do you think the regional players could also play a role in that?
Actually, when we see the dispute of Kashmir, it is an international issue. It is not a dispute between Kashmiris or with India, nor it is a dispute between India or Pakistan. There are United Security Council resolutions, and more than 18 resolutions has been passed by United Nations. So Kashmir, as long as is concerned, unless and until we will give the chance to the people of the Kashmir for their right to self-determination, because it's the people who has to decide about their fate. India wants to curb Kashmir's genuine struggle by force. It is not possible. Despite we are facing a lot of problems in Kashmir, as 100,000 troops are there present in our small valley, and they are backed by black laws. They have the impunity to kill anybody, to maim anybody, to destroy property, and they are not answerable to any court. This is the struggle of Kashmir. So it can only, its solution is only, we also want there should be an amicable solution of this Kashmir tangle. But why we are not succeeded yet? It is because the stubborn stand of India. Our struggle has a lot of sacrifices, and these sacrifices will not go to vain. A day will come, well,
This will never go in vain. Pakistan has continued to stand with the Kashmiri people and will continue to do so. Sheikh Mateen, leader of the APHC AJK chapter, thank you for your time and being part of the conversation. With that, unfortunately, as we're running short on time, I'd like to conclude Views on News for today. We were joined by Mohammed Waleed Inkalabi, Joint Secretary of the Pakistan PPP Azad Jammu and Kashmir chapter, and Brigadier Rashid WaliJanjua, Senior Analyst. Thank you both for your time and being part of the conversation. Of course, 5th of February marks Kashmir Solidarity Day. Pakistan, of course, stood in solidarity with our Kashmiri brethren. As always, there was rallies conducted throughout the country, rallies conducted in Azad Jammu and Kashmir, and rallies conducted all over the world to express solidarity with our Kashmiri brethren, as Pakistan has done it and will always continue to do so. The leadership of the country, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and President Asif Ali Zardari, in their messages, they called upon the international community to take cognizance of the promises and commitments they made to the Kashmiri people. It's been 78 years of brutal Indian atrocities and brutal Indian state oppression. Of course, the Kashmiri people deserve justice and they deserve the commitments made to them to be upheld. That's all that we have from Views on News for today. See you same time tomorrow. Till then, take care.